The verse of the day is Matthew 5:3, and it says, God blesses those who are poor and realize their need for him, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. This is one of my favorite verses in the Bible, you guys, because it means if you are suffering in any capacity, the kingdom of heaven is yours. And that's really great news, because how often do you and I suffer? How often do you and I experience fear and anxiety and worry and hard days? And today's verse is a good reminder that if you are experiencing those things, the kingdom of heaven is yours. And a verse like this might not make sense. Okay, why am I blessed if I'm poor? Other translations, most of the other translations use the word poor in spirit. And I prefer that wording because it's just highlighting that when your spirit is poor, not just physically when you're poor and in need, but when you're internally low, you're blessed because the kingdom of heaven is yours. And what does that mean? It means that you know your need. It means that you know that you're spiritually lacking. You know you need to depend on God. And if you know your need for God, you are so blessed because that means you get to see him show up in that place. That means there's a testimony waiting to be walked out. That means that you get the opportunity to be strong in that very place of weakness, and your faith gets to grow. And I think it applies to this month's challenge in a huge way because it includes everyone. You are blessed if you are poor in spirit. So that helps you hold on to the fact that, okay, I'm poor in spirit, which is really difficult to work through, and it feels like suffering in ways. But if God says, blessed are those who are poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven, then I get to hold on to the fact that the kingdom of heaven is mine, even when I'm poor in spirit. So often we think that when we're poor in spirit, feeling fear, anxiety, worry, any of those things, that we're doing this God thing wrong, that we don't have enough faith, that God is punishing us, that we need to get right in order to get the fear away. But that's just not true. The fear and the worry and the hard moments and the suffering is really an avenue to experience more of God. And God uses it to help open our eyes to the more of him. To give a little context on this verse, this is one of Jesus's first sermons. It's called the Sermon on the Mount. Right after he came out of the wilderness and into his public ministry, this is one of his first speeches. And I don't think it's a coincidence that his first teaching is you're blessed if you're poor in spirit. God didn't come for those who are healthy. He came for those who know they need a doctor. He came for those that know their need for him. When I look back on all the moments of suffering in my life or low moments, every single time it forced me to run to Jesus. And this is when we do have a choice. Are we going to bring our suffering and our anxiety and our worry to Jesus? Are we going to make that an opportunity to run to him and experience his kingdom in the midst of it and trust his timing? That we might not see this thing go away instantly, but it's through the avenue of trust and dependence that our faith is going to be put in him and not the fear and the worry, not on our understanding, but on his, allowing the Holy Spirit to renew our mind and refresh us. And simply in that change of perspective, most often we start to feel a shift of the pressure lightening, of the burden being lifted, because we can't overcome a poor spirit without the Spirit of God. We need the Holy Spirit to overcome, because that Spirit has power over all of the evil in the world that makes our spirit low, that makes us feel suffering, that is the reason why we live in a fallen world. And so how encouraging is it to know that when we're in our lowest of low, that's where we're blessed. That's the first thing God wanted to tell us and remind us. So if you're someone who's feeling fear, worry, anxiety, your spirit is low, depression, hold on to a verse like today, because it is supposed to remind us to run to him with it. No matter how many days it takes, running to him with it is our only shot. And he's the only one who has power over it. He's the only one that's going to help rewire your brain and show you what's true. It says, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. What's the kingdom of heaven? Going back to what the fruit of heaven is. Peace, love, joy, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, self-control. That's yours. That's what you have the opportunity to tap into. So when you're feeling poor in spirit, it's shifting our focus to what is ours and what isn't. And remembering we were not given a spirit of fear. The fear, worry, and anxiety is not who you are. It's just what's coming at you. And so the more we pursue the kingdom of heaven, relationship with Jesus, shifting our focus from the fear to our faith in him, the more we start to see, oh, my joy is in him alone. Oh, I do have peace that doesn't make sense. Oh, I can gain all of the fruit of God's kingdom the more I pursue him. But I think it's important to know that this might not be an overnight situation, and you might be seeking God in prayer and begging for change and not feeling anything. And we have to surrender our timelines. We have to surrender our need to know why. We always want to know why something is happening. And I believe God is always just trying to teach us how to move through it. So instead of focusing on why am I experiencing this? Why? God will give you revelation when he needs you to know it. So our job in the midst of feeling suffering, fear, and worry is how am I going to move through it? Am I going to allow this to define me? Am I going to allow this to tell me that I'm not enough? Or am I going to allow this to help me run to Jesus in full dependence and make it an avenue that makes me fully surrender and allow the Holy Spirit to take control in my mind? A verse like today means so much to me because I've seen it in my life a lot. Before the Jesus Challenge was born, I was the most depressed I had ever been. And I had been walking with Jesus for many years at this point. And so I knew, okay, rewire my brain, pray, journal, do the things, deny the lies, deny the fear, deny what's trying to come at me. But I was at a point where I didn't know how to help myself anymore. But I knew all the tools, right? You get a lot of tools, and once you start walking with Jesus, there's seasons where those tools work and seasons where they don't work like they used to. And this was a moment where I was trying to do the things and they weren't working. My prayer, the things weren't working. And I remember crying out to God and saying, help me, Lord, because I cannot help myself. And I remember texting my loved ones and just being like, I'm not good. I need help. God, help me. That's all I could really say. And I believe sometimes God is just trying to get us to that place to be fully surrendered in that I can't help me. God, you help me. My prayers and doing in the work, sometimes we think that's what saves us, but it's the power of God that saves us. And I believe he teaches us these lessons to really remind us it's not your works that saves you. It's what I already did on that cross. And so me saying, Lord, help me, and then just letting it be and trying to love myself in the midst of feeling depressed was all I could do. And that next morning I woke up completely different. And the next morning is when I got the details for the Jesus Challenge. And so a verse like today, sometimes all it looks like is, Lord, help me. Help me, and then trusting that he will, and letting go you needing to fix yourself, and just allowing God to love you as you are, because he does. He doesn't want you to be depressed and full of anxiety and worry. He just wants you to fully depend and fully surrender, because that's when he gets to do his best work in and through you, and gets to remind you that it's what he did. Nothing you have to do to earn salvation and freedom. Yes, there's things we can do to help us and our free will, but it's just the power of the Holy Spirit that's going to teach you this lesson, because it is only the Spirit that sets us free. So call out to God, cry out to him, depend on him, and see what happens. Okay?